Ooh, okay. So I wonder how this works. So I wanted to hop on here really quickly. One, to test just what YouTube Live is. I'm really curious to see what it looks like. But anyway, today is this is snow day, or the first of two snow days here. I mean, there's not even really any snow, but since moving to a place that doesn't typically get snow, uh, any little piece of ice, the schools are closed for the rest of the week, which, whatever. Um, okay. So I'm in my office trying to get some like work stuff done, and I wanted to just hop on and see. One, I wanted to test what my background looked like because I've been kind of staging it for a while. And if I'm going to be starting like work after kind of not working for the last 6 months, um, wanted to see what it looked like. And also wanted to kind of use this stream to record my labor and delivery story because I didn't actually do that at all. I also did not take any notes, so we'll see what it is. And more than kind of my labor and delivery, I kind of think I want to talk about the couple months leading up, or really my pregnancy, because that's actually more interesting than the actual labor and delivery because it was a scheduled C-section. So, um, this is Iman. Yes. Um, he will be a month tomorrow, so this is kind of late. But you know, better late than never. That's what they say. Shout out to Riley. Um, so lots of things have happened for me in the kind of 9 months leading up to the birth, and then the 1 month after the birth. So I guess in the last 10 to 11 months. Um, is that right? 10 to 11 months? I guess it's been 10 months. Uh, so my family moved in the time that I was pregnant. A couple things happened. I decided we were going to move across country. So move from the East Coast back to the South, where I was grew up with my family, with my husband and my son, my older son. I quit my job that I was there from grad school. So for like my 10-year job, basically I retired from that job. Um, and was kind of without a job for the first time in my real adult life. So haven't worked since then. Moved across the country, left all my friends, all of my everything. Um, got a house and had some health stuff with my pregnancy. Um, Scheduled a C-section. My brother got married. We traveled for that. There's been a lot that's been going on with this pregnancy, and it's been a tumultuous, 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 tumultuous. Uh, Really 5 months because the first 4 months I was still in DC, so it wasn't. We were just kind of preparing to move. It was all kind of conceptual. But from August or July, when I quit my job, we moved to now it's February. It's been a lot going on. Um, so let me rewind it back. So I found out that I was pregnant in June of 2021. I think it was like the very first week of June. No, was it? it was like somewhere at the end of May, early June. Um, my friends, one of my best friends had a big trip, a girls' trip to Aruba in May, to celebrate her 35th birthday. And so we went, all my friends went there. I was pregnant at the time, didn't know, but shortly after I came back, me and some other friends kind of like went out, and I got really sick at the restaurant, like threw up in the bathroom of this Mexican restaurant. It was very tacky. Uh, and I thought it was because I was drunk, but it's because I was pregnant. Went, got a test, and it found out I was pregnant. So that was May. And then a couple months, not even a couple months, a couple of weeks prior to me finding out that I was pregnant, my husband and I had talked about potentially moving back to Texas, where I'm from, um, just to see, for curiosity reasons. To be honest, there wasn't like a job waiting for me, which is another story. Wasn't a job waiting for me. I actually had talked to um, my supervisor and told her I was thinking about moving. At the time, my entire job was 100% remote and had been for over a year. I had a coworker who moved to California and was still on the team. It was kind of like, oh, if that's what we're doing, let me move to Dallas because I'm curious to know kind of what it would be like. We came to visit, and I was really happy, and my husband was really happy. So we're like, let's just see, we're remote, like we can do it. So literally a couple, like 2 weeks before, 2 weeks before, um, or yeah, 2 weeks before I found out I was pregnant, I told my boss, all right, we're gonna do it, because I was telling her I was thinking about it. We found a place here in Texas. We paid uh, a lot of money to secure our place. And so we're like, all right, well, we paid this money, so it's happening. We're moving. So we did that. I paid all this money. I told her we were getting ready to move, but it wasn't really a big deal for my work end, because we were like, okay, you're still going to be able to work remote. Literally, while I was in Aruba, like maybe the Friday after I'd paid the deposit and all of this money to get to secure a place here, I told my boss I was moving. I was like ready to do this thing. We get an email from the mayor, um, where I worked, telling us that we have to now come back into work 2 times a week, starting in like August or something like that. And I was like, oh, I just secured a place because I knew that we would be working remotely indefinitely, because I'd been asking about it, like, what's the plan? Are we going back in the office? What are we doing? COVID is still happening, like, what's happening? And they just kept telling us over and over, oh, there's no plans to go back in the office anytime soon. There's no plans to do anything. And even if there was, we would have like a hardship situation, because lots of people have moved away. Lots of people have like pre-existing conditions. Like, it's not going to be a mass, like everyone come into the office type of situation. And so that's what I made my decision on. Okay, let's move. Like, there's no risk, right? As soon as, like, I had sent the money to the new owner, the owner of the place that we're in, told my boss everything. And like 3 days later, they were like, no, you hoes are coming in and you hoes are coming in. All at the same time, in about a month and a half, get ready. So I'm like, ugh, so what do I do? So I'm like, okay, so what does that mean? Like, do I now have to quit my job because I've already paid all this money? I've already told my old apartment that I'm moving. Thinking back at it, I guess I could have asked for the money back, and like I had already signed a lease here, and it was just a lot already happening at the same time. So I was like, okay, so maybe this means that I'm supposed to move and things are going to work out. I'm like, okay, whatever. So do that, come back from the trip, talking to my husband, like, yo, like, I don't know what's gonna happen with this job, but should we keep going? He's like, we already paid the money, we should keep going. So we keep going going forward with this move, even though I don't know exactly what I'm going to do for a job. I don't know what's going on with that. Then I find out literally the week after that I'm pregnant. So now I'm really like, okay, what's going on? Like, either I'm really supposed to be moving or I'm not supposed to be moving. But I'm gonna take this as a sign. It's the reason why I did all of this stuff. We were able to find a place, sign a lease, pay the money, tell my boss, do everything, was because I was pregnant and I should move here to get more support or be closer to family. I was like, oh, maybe that's a sign. Maybe this is my eat, pray, love moment. Let's keep going. So fast forward a bit, June, July, we're preparing to move, paying all this money to move cross country. I quit my job because they told me that me, along with all the other people who had moved away, including my brother, that unless you were going to be coming in twice a week, every week, you needed to resign. So it's like, well, okay, I guess I need to resign. Let me start looking for jobs. Now I know that I'm pregnant, but what options do I have? So I start kind of looking around for jobs. I had talked to someone who I had worked with my job, who's based out here in Texas, talked about the work that they were doing because I was curious and kind of pivoting my career. Like, this is a great time to pivot because I'm kind of forced to leave. So maybe this is time for me to kind of think about something new. So I talked to this person. They were like, oh, great. This is perfect. You can come work with us. Like, it's going to be a great situation. When are you moving? You're moving in July, the end of July. Excellent. Can you start August 1st? Like, all you need is your computer. You can be virtual, blah, blah, blah. Like, no stress. Like, don't even worry about it. So I was like, amazing. This is like supposed to be happening. Like, let's do it. Yay. August comes, we're moved. I'm like, oh, I'm telling people, oh, I'm going to be starting this new job. Like, they're really excited about it. Like, things are just kind of falling into place. We move. We get here. It's now August. I'm emailing them like, hey, I've moved. I'm settled in. Like, I'm ready to get going. Oh, let's chat more about it. And I'm like, whoa. What does that mean? Let's chat more about it. We talked about me starting on August 1. Now, there are some lessons that I've learned in this process around like taking people for what they say versus like things that you see. And I could talk a lot about kind of what I would have done differently in this situation. But at the time, I was kind of intentionally trying to go outside of my comfort zone, because this move, just the idea of kind of leaving a job that I'd been at for a long time, um, moving to another city, having another baby, because that was a whole nother conversation around like my real fear of like getting pregnant and doing that again. I was just trying to like push myself out of my comfort zone. Like, everything was a yes. Like, yes, let's do it. Yes, let's have this baby. Yes, let's move. Yes, let's quit this job. Yes, let's trust this person. Things are going to work out. I was really in, or maybe still am, kind of in that headspace of like, I'd read Shonda Rhimes' Year of Yes, and I was just like, oh, let's just let life take us. Like, people apparently live their life like with the faith that things are going to work out. And I was like, let's try that. Not really my jam, but it works for people, right? Um, so yeah, so August came and went, September came and went, October came and went, and I'm still kind of waiting around for this job. Now, I've been applying to other jobs because by August, really 5th, when I didn't get what I needed to get from that person, I kind of was like, okay, I need to pivot and find another job. And so I've been applying to lots and lots of jobs. And for whatever reason, I was getting no callbacks. None, zero, zilch, nada. I was getting those like, thanks for applying, but we found other candidates that are more closely aligned to whatever, whatever. You know, those emails. So I was getting a bunch of those and I didn't understand why. Like, not even, like, honestly, not understanding why. Like, the skills that I have, uh, the experience that I have, all of those things are, I've never had a problem finding a job or like I've never had that problem before. So it was just like a very strange situation. Um, that I just wasn't getting callbacks. And I was like, why is this happening to me? Like, and why is it happening to me now on the other side of the country? I don't know this kind of scene, this work scene. I'm pregnant. I'm becoming more pregnant as this is happening right now. I'm in my second trimester. I'm getting more pregnant. How am I going to apply to jobs? I'm about to drop this baby. No one's going to want to hire me. What the hell am I doing? Why did I move? Oh my God, this was a mistake. What have I done? You know, I'm going through all of these emotional problems as I'm becoming more pregnant and more hormonal. And my savings, which was pretty sizable, enough to kind of support us for a good while. It's just going down and down. And I haven't ever had to really spend out of my savings. And so that was also freaking me out. Um, yeah, so it was just like a lot going on. But luckily, my pregnancy up until that point, up until really November, was pretty non eventful. Being a fat person who's pregnant, it's annoying because doctors are constantly looking for problems and kind of allowing their biases around fat folk to kind of color how do I want to say this? All of the doctors that I have encountered, especially while pregnant, have been fat phobic, like most doctors um, in America. And I don't know what happens in the world, but definitely that I've encountered have been fat phobic, and their biases around fat folks and their assumptions around lifestyle choices, their health, um, and really honestly worthiness to have a baby. That's kind of what I was feeling. Kind of made all of my experiences really terrible. Um, there was just a lot of, do you have high blood pressure? No, I don't have high blood pressure. Are you sure? That kind of stuff. And you're at higher risk for this, and make sure you do this. And, it was very like a very condescending situation. And also like, we're concerned, but not concerned because there's anything in your medical records to concern us, just concerned because you're fat and fat people shouldn't have babies. That's the energy that I was getting. So I was getting a lot of that, but there was actually nothing happening with the baby. So it's kind of just an annoyance that, to be quite honest, I've been very comfortable and very used to having just like a daily annoyance of people and their opinions, just, maneuvering the world as a fat person. So, which is another conversation for another day. So nothing was happening, but there was nothing was happening physically, but a lot of emotional and mental turmoil was happening. I'm someone who has always have been in therapy for a really long time. I've had very terrible anxiety and depression, and so it was a tough time because not only had I moved, but I lost my therapist because in the move, therapists can only uh, be certified in a certain state. So my therapist, who was amazing, I love her, oh my God, um, was not licensed in the state that I'm in now. And so while I felt very ready for the move, because we've done a lot of work and I'm so proud of myself for all the work that I've done, it was just kind of like, okay, girl, like you said you're ready. Let's see if you kind of have retained all of these tools to kind of be okay, because this is going to be a tumultuous time. Change is tumultuous. Even if it's change that you yourself have chosen to do, it's still scary and it's still kind of a lot. And so, yeah, I was dealing with a lot, and yeah, I was dealing with a lot. I'm still dealing with a lot. I'm not even out of whatever this is, but I guess I feel more comfortable to talk about it now for whatever reason. But anyway, there's a lot of emotional stuff going on. There was a lot of like me kind of renegotiating how mm, how I place value on myself. I don't think that I realized how much of how I viewed myself and how valuable I viewed myself was tied to the work that I was doing, and to be quite honest, the money that I was bringing in. Um, as someone who kind of, not kind of, as someone who is a strong critic of capitalism and how fucking horrible it is to our society, especially Black people. Um, I had to really, I really struggled with this idea of like being, not being financially stable, or not even financially stable, because stable wasn't the problem, because I actually was stable because I had saving, not being financially comfortable, like not being in the 5%. I'll be honest. Not being a high earner or an earner, not being an earner at all, was something I really struggled with. Um, and like, how do I place my value? What is it that I'm doing in this time where I'm not working, quasi intentionally, quasi not, because I was supposed to not be working. I was supposed to be resting and enjoying and whatever my therapist was telling me, taking a sabbatical. But the anxiety in me and kind of this idea of like, who am I if I'm not working, kind of forced me to keep like looking for jobs. Like, I'd be good for a couple of weeks, like, oh, I'm enjoying it, I'm like decorating and painting stuff and buying furniture and like living this restful life that I know a lot of folks wouldn't be able to do. But then in the middle of the night, I'd be like, what the fuck are you doing? You don't have a job. Who are you if you don't have a job? Like, this is a joke. What are you doing? Life is not, this isn't life. And so then I'd apply for jobs, and then I'd get a bunch of rejections, and I'd be like, okay, maybe I'm not supposed to be working. Let me relax again. And then I would go back into this manic thing. And it just, that continued for months. And so, yeah, it was a struggle. So sometime in the end of October, I'm now moving into my third trimester. Still don't have a job. Still using my savings to kind of support us, plus, my husband working. Um, but a very different lifestyle than I've lived in years, right? I made the decision to stop looking for a job because at this point, realistically, I'm going to be having a baby soon. And I know I'm not going to have maternity leave. And it's going to be difficult for me to even be working because by November, physically, the pregnancy started to get hard and I started to have complications. So I just was like, okay, maybe I need to just be focusing on being healthy and getting this baby out. So stopped working, stopped looking for jobs. And then, of course, at that point, now that I'm kind of given up on working, the original job, the original person who wanted me to come work with them is now like, oh, we're ready to talk now about potentially doing work with you. Can you write us a proposal? Can you do this so that we can contract with you? And so I fill out this contract thing, fill out this proposal for a project that I've been thinking about. They're like really excited about it. I'm like, ooh, maybe I stop looking for jobs and I can start doing this kind of the way I thought about the work. I can start working. I put in like a break after I had the baby because it was kind of a contract job. So I was like, oh, this is perfect. We can start now. It's November. We can, get started. November comes and goes. Then they're like, oh, we really love this idea. We want to continue to work with you, but let's talk after the holiday. And I'm like, which holiday? Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas, Kwanzaa, Hanukkah? No, all of them, New Year's. So they're like, yeah, we can talk about this, a week before you give birth, basically. We can talk about next steps. And I'm like, well, that doesn't help me financially at all, but thank you. So yeah, so say all that to say complications with the pregnancy. Let's talk about that. Earlier in 2021, before I was pregnant, before any of that, I was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. That was an interesting situation. I was in the hospital for 3 days. I had keto, like it was a lot going on. It was really scary actually. But from the time that I was kind of discharged in February until I got pregnant, I was able to I was able to stabilize my numbers, get them all the way down to normal just through kind of lifestyle change. Yeah, so I was able to do that. Hence why I was able to, have a baby or conceive and do all of that. So all throughout the pregnancy, I've been obviously testing my numbers, keeping up with kind of the changes that I had made. And my numbers have been fine, completely normal, like not even diabetic numbers or pre-diabetic numbers, like completely normal numbers all the way through my pregnancy. And so, which was why it was annoying that the doctors kept like asking me nonsense. It was like, you can see these numbers. I check them all day, every day. Everything's fine. November comes, and randomly my numbers just skyrocket, like nothing. Cairo, close the door. Close the door now. Now, close the door. Close it. Thank you. I knew that was going to happen at some point. Anyway, my number started to skyrocket, and the doctors they sent me to a high risk doctor to kind of manage the numbers because regular OBs apparently don't know anything about diabetes and don't want to have anything to do with it. So I went to a high risk doctor. That insurance, my God, there's so many videos that I want to make. Insurance, the public sector insurance, Obamacare insurance, healthcare.gov, transitioning from working for the government and having like government insurance to going to government insurance, disastrous, horrible. How are people living life? How are people affording to do anything? It's beyond me. There's so, from a policy perspective, there's just, anyway, so they sent me to a high risk doctor. I went to two different ones, high risk maternal fetal medicine doctor. I went to two different ones because of insurance, and it's still a mess that I'm dealing with. But went to a doctor. The first doctor was like, your numbers are fine, so we don't want to do anything. Let's just keep watching it. My insurance, my insurance didn't cover that particular doctor. So they sent me to the other doctor who's also a maternal fetal person that they did cover. And that person had a different philosophy. They were like, let's put you on insulin. Long story short, they put me on insulin. After never having been on insulin, my regular doctor, the regular high risk doctor who was seeing me, was conservative around the amount of insulin, because apparently if you take too much insulin, it can kill you. Which is why the other doctor was like, let's not put you on insulin. I don't think you need it. Long story short, the doctor who wanted to put me on insulin but was conservative about it had like some surgery or something. This is now December. Now they've decided to put me on insulin. It's December, close to Christmas time. So another thing that I learned was that doctors are closed for the holiday. So you know how your job is closed? Um, doctors' offices are closed. So apparently people don't have babies around Christmas and New Year's, but the doctor's offices were just closed. So anyway, my doctor was closed for basically the last 2 weeks of December. He had a partner who was taking some of his clients, didn't know anything about me. I've never seen her, never met her. After that initial meeting, never saw her again. But this lady put me on a lot of insulin, like very high numbers. She was like, "No, your baby's gonna be stillborn. He's gonna die. You're gonna die. Everyone's gonna die. I'm gonna send you to the hospital right now, and I'm not gonna tell you. I can't tell you when I'll release you until your numbers go down." It was just like very dramatic situation. And so her being dramatic was the first time that I was like, "Oh, maybe something is wrong." Like, they kept testing the baby and she's like, "Oh, the baby's fine. Oh, I'm surprised," that kind of shit. So this lady was like really freaking out, put me on a lot of insulin and had me taking it like 4 times a day or something like that. Immediately, immediately after I started taking the insulin, my numbers started to stabilize again. I mm, mm, I could explain why my numbers were high. I think I had an infection or something that was causing things to spike, but it just happened to be terrible timing. My numbers spiked as I was seeing these doctors. They thought that my numbers had just been out of control and that I was like lying, that it had been controlled. And so they put me on this insulin. Um, they put me on this insulin and literally I think it was like a Friday, they put me on insulin. Starting that Monday up until New Year's, they were out. So I had no one to call to ask, you know, questions when things started to go awry. So fast forward to things going awry. They put me on all this insulin. I'm taking the insulin, and still eating the way that I'd been eating, which had been kind of different to account for the way that my uh, body handles insulin, right? So I'd been eating the same way that had been just enough to stabilize my numbers. Now I'm taking insulin on top of that. Now my body is going the other way. I'm having low blood sugars now because my body has now stabilized for whatever was causing the spike. Now my numbers are low, like low as in like in the 50s low. And for anyone who knows anything about blood sugar, that's like dead low. That's like passed out low. And so there were multiple times, like literally every day, at some point, I would either, if I was driving or doing something, I would have to pull over because I would lose my sight, get really faint, and like feel like I'm gonna die unless I eat a piece of candy or ice cream or something. Like it was really bad. It was like something, it was clearly too much insulin, but I had no one to call to ask what should I be doing because something isn't right. They told me when they gave me this, I'm like, "Oh, here's a list of like what happens, what you could experience if your blood sugar is too low, but it's very unlikely for you to have that, as someone who has type 2 diabetes that's uncontrolled, blah blah blah." I'm like, "It's not uncontrolled," but they weren't listening to me. So they're like, "It's very rare that you would have that problem, but if your blood sugars do go low, that's a big problem, just so that kind of thing." Said it offhandedly. So my blood sugars were going low every single day. 50s, 40s. I would be waking up, my resting blood sugar was like 56. It was crazy. Just going down, 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 down for a week. I would call the doctor's office, the high risk doctor's office. They would tell me, "We're closed. Send us an email." No one's responding to emails. It's holiday time. I would then call my regular doctor and tell her, like, "Hey, I they gave me this insulin, but I'm pretty sure something's wrong." She's like, "Oh, I can't touch that. That's between you and that doctor. I can't tell you what to do." Everyone, no one wants to touch anything. And the one person who was supposed to be giving me answers is out just on vacation. So I'm just like, what am I supposed to be doing? Like, do I need to take it or not? Because you said that I need to take this insulin or my baby's going to be stillborn and I'm going to die. So I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing, but me taking insulin feels like I'm going to die. So what am I doing? So this goes on Christmas Day. I'm still taking the insulin, doing whatever, guessing what I'm supposed to be doing because I know that these numbers are too high, but I don't know, what to do. So Christmas comes, my family's here. I'm doing a lot, kind of hosting, and I'm starting to get a lot of contractions, like often, like not completely regular, but like often. And I'm like, oh, that's weird because my baby's not due until literally a month from now. And also, I have a scheduled C section for January 17th because I already have a C section with the first kid. And so I'm like, oh, I don't want to have a baby right now. I want to keep cooking. So I kind of keep it easy. A week goes by. I'm still taking the insulin, still haven't seen the high risk doctor, have only gone to see my regular doctor one time. And she was like, oh, I don't want to touch it. I don't know what to tell you. So New Year's Eve comes, I'm still taking it. At this point, now my regular doctor is also on vacation. So both of my doctors are on vacation. I'm still taking insulin, but at that point, I'm so late in my pregnancy that they want me to go twice a week. Want me to go twice a week until the birth. This is New Year's Eve. On New Year's Eve, because both doctor's offices are closed, they tell me to go to the hospital to get whatever the BPP screening or whatever. So I go to the hospital for an appointment, basically, to do the little ultrasound or whatever to check on the baby. Everything's cool with the baby. He's chilling, as always just chilling. Nothing's going on. Me and my mom leave the hospital after the appointment and then go get something to eat. I go into one of those low blood sugar things again. I think it was like 52 or 46, something. It was extremely low to the point where I was like dropping stuff, knocking over glasses, like falling over. My mom is like, we went to On the Border, and my mom was like asking the bartender for cookies and things to like wake me up because I'm about to keel over. And so I'm like, and my mom's like, something's not right. Like, stop taking, something's wrong. Like, you shouldn't be taking this insulin. I'm like, I know, but no one will answer any questions for me. So she comes back to my house after, and we're like setting up all this baby stuff. I was having the urge in that day and a couple days before that to like nest. I was having a nesting urge randomly and had energy. So I was like, okay, let's do all this stuff. So she spent most of New Year's Eve with me, like washing baby clothes, setting up the nursery and all of that. She goes home probably around like 8, 9 o'clock. And I'm at home just kind of chilling. I start to get those contractions again, like I had a week before on Christmas. These contractions are coming very regularly, like not super painful, like not like they didn't feel super painful, but they were clearly contractions and they started coming every 5 minutes and then moved to every 2 minutes. And they did that for hours, like 2 hours, to the point where I had the little contraction thing, the contraction counter, and I was just like, I had been playing around with it, putting contractions in for probably like a week or two before that, and it would just be like, oh, these are practice contractions. But on that day, it was like, you need to go to the hospital right now, and if it's your second, or you need to call your doctor. But if it's your second baby, you need to go to the hospital right now because you can have your baby any minute. I'm like, that's crazy. It's January 1st, December 31st. It's too early. These don't feel like terrible contractions, but they are regular. So I call the on-call thing at my OB's on-call thing. She tells me to come into the hospital to get checked out. So I go into the hospital literally at midnight, like at the stroke of midnight. My husband, my son, and me are on the highway on the way to the hospital. My mom, who had just gotten home, drove and met me at the hospital at like on New Year's Day at midnight. We go to the hospital, they check me out. They see that I'm having contractions, but they see that like they check my cervix. It's nothing's happening there. And so they're like, "Oh, that's weird." um, what's going on? And so I was like, well, my blood sugar has been really low for the past 2 weeks. They tell me to take insulin, but no one can, give me any advice on, like, it's clearly wrong, but my doctor is closed and no one will help me, basically. And so they too were like, oh, we don't want to touch insulin. The actual doctor was like, oh, you need to wait to talk to your maternal fetal doctor. And I'm like, that's the problem. He's been out for 2 weeks and this is happening because he's been out. And they're like, well, and I had an appointment with him in 2 days, like January 3rd. I had an appointment with him. I was like, but the problem is, like, what do I do from today until January 3rd? And they're like, oh, I don't know, just drink water. And basically, they told me that what was causing my contractions was my low blood sugar. My body thought that I was starving, because I guess that's what it means when your blood sugar is low. It thinks it's starving. So my body was looking for nutrients in the largest muscle that it could find. The largest muscle at the time was my uterus, because I'm pregnant. So it was causing my uterus to contract. And so I was like, what the fuck? And so they're like, yeah, do you need to drink more water and, like, talk to your doctor about insulin? I'm like, that does not answer my question. Do I stop taking it? Do I reduce what? And so no one would answer the question other than the nurse on the way out. She was like, listen, this is a medical advice because I can't give it to you, but if it were me, I would stop taking it. That I would stop if it were me, or reduce. So I was like, all right, bet. So I stopped taking it and then I started reducing it, like, depending on what I was going to eat. Right. Like, okay, I'm about to have a donut. An example. I'm about to have a donut. I'll take 10 cc, 10, whatever, that kind of stuff. I was just like guessing. Or I know that I'm about to have a salad, so I'm not going to take it at all. That kind of stuff. Or I wake up and my resting number is normal, so I'm not taking insulin today. That's what I did for the next 3 days. Get to the doctor on January 3rd, finally the high risk doctor. And I'm like, yo, so I was in the hospital over the weekend because my blood sugar's been low and you girls haven't been available. What's the tea? So he's looking at the thing. He's like, oh, have you been checking the baby's movements? Are you checking the baby's movements? Because the red risk for stillbirth, blah, blah, whatever. And he's like, but we're still gonna keep your January 17th date. Let's just test another week of you guessing how much to take. He was like, oh, you've been doing a good job with guessing. Because it looks like your numbers have stabilized in the last 2 days. I'm like, yeah, because I'm not taking fucking insulin. He's like, yeah, let's keep up the guessing, and we'll do that for another 2 weeks, and then you'll have your baby. And I'm just like, no, I'm not going to continue just guessing and potentially pass out or something because y'all don't have the answers, or don't want to give me any answers. So I'm just like, are you sure? And he's like, you know what, actually, let's go ahead and take the baby out, because maybe the reason why you don't need insulin anymore is concerning. It's concerning to us that you don't need as much insulin anymore, because that will let us know that your uterus is, no, your placenta, not uterus. Your placenta is aging, because your placenta is why your blood sugars have gone up. Basically, your placenta affects the way your body processes whatever the stuff that deals with blood sugar. And so that's why all pregnant women get screened as they get further in their pregnancy, because of the placenta affects things potentially. So for someone who has type 2, it obviously is going to affect you just like it would any person, but the effects would be potentially bigger, basically. So basically the doctor was saying, oh, it must be that your placenta is aging, and if your placenta ages, then that can lead to stillbirth, because your baby's getting all of its nutrients from your placenta, and blah blah blah. I'm like, my placenta is not aging. You girls gave me too much insulin when I didn't need it, and no one was there to readjust. That's what's happening. But girl, say whatever it is you need to say. So this is January 3rd. He's like, I'm going to call your doctor and tell her, let's take the baby out between 37 and 38 weeks, which would be pushing it up a week or so, basically a week. So I'm like, okay, cool. So maybe I'll have the baby, January 11th or something, like a week from now, a week before he was planning to come out, which was on the 17th. This is January 3rd. He's like, yeah, I'll call them and she'll call you with the new date. Let's just keep our Monday appointment and, maybe you'll give birth next week, basically. I'm like, all right, cool. Whatever. I go home. I'm now not taking insulin at all. Like, I'm just fuck that insulin. I'm not doing it because none of you girls have the answer and I'm not doing this. So this is January 3rd. They call me that afternoon. My regular OB calls me, the scheduler calls me and is like, hey, just wanted to let you know, talk to the maternal fetal doctor. They want you to, give birth a little early because we don't know what's going on with the placenta and blah, blah, blah. Actually, we're going to schedule you to have the baby out this Friday in 4 days. And I was like, huh? What? Yeah, at 37 weeks exactly, we're going to have the baby come out. It's already been scheduled for January 7th. So you that's when you're going to have your baby. And you need to be particularly careful making sure you feel the baby because you're higher risk for stillborn because your placenta's aging. Like, what? Now my placenta's aging. Okay. So for the next 3 or 4 days, I'm freaking out like, oh, this baby's coming way earlier because his due date is actually was January 28th. So I'm like, oh, okay. So he's coming 3 full weeks early at 37 weeks. And they're like, and just so you know, because we're taking the baby out so early, he could need to go to the NICU for having like undeveloped lungs and blah, blah, blah. I'm just like, what the fuck is going on? Now you're taking the baby out too early. And it's really just a problem that you girls are giving me too much insulin, but no one wants to tell me that or admit that they did that. So now they're making up this shit about this placenta. So I'm just like, you know what? Even though y'all are stupid as fuck for this, I'm just going to allow this to happen because the sooner I give birth, the sooner I don't have to deal with any of you incompetent ass people, right? Like, fine, just take the baby out. We'll take our chances in the real world without you because you girls are going to kill us. Not me and my body or the baby and his health. It's going to be y'all. So I'm just like, fine. I'm not even going to fight it. Take the baby out. That's fine. Those 4 days between when they called me and the morning that he came out, I was really stressed, always feeling for the movement of the baby. At this point, he's big, that was the other thing. He's going to be huge. He's going to be 10 pounds. He's going to be so big. Oh my God. And so those 4 days, because he was big, I can't feel a baby moving that much as I get this size, right? And so I'm every 5 minutes, I'm like, oh my God, is the baby still moving? They keep saying he's going to be stillborn. What am I, unnecessary stress. The day of his delivery was very uneventful compared to the last month and a half. We show up, my mom and I, because it's COVID, so only one person can come to the hospital at a time. So my mom was there during the surgery. My husband was there during the stay because only one person could come. And yeah, so my mom comes to my house at like 3 o'clock in the morning, 3:30, to pick me up. We go to the hospital. We had to be there at 5 o'clock. So we get there around 5 o'clock. Is that right? Yeah, we get there around 5 o'clock. They do all the pre-screening. So they strap me up to check the baby. Make sure he's good. They give me the medicine that I need. I have to sign a bunch of papers. They ask me to donate the placenta. And I'm like, oh, so y'all want my placenta, but I thought it was aged. I thought it was useless. Why do y'all want my placenta? Because the shit isn't aged. Like, because you girls have messed up. That's why y'all are rushing me because y'all don't want to fuck this up anymore. But obviously there's nothing wrong with my placenta because the lady who is asking can we have it literally came into our room like 4 times because the first time I was like, what are you talking about, like, get out. And then she came back again and she came up again and I was like, even if I'd be okay with normally be okay with like donating things to science, but you're being creepy about this and like predatory. So I don't trust you. Like, it's not even that I don't trust the process because I'm definitely an organ donor, but I don't trust you. Like, you're being a weirdo. And so then the doctor comes in and is like, why won't you donate it? Like, donate it. I'm like, I don't have a problem with donating it, but she's being weird and you're being weird. And I thought my placenta was aged and old. And they're like, no, it's fine. Okay. So anyway, so other than that, it was a very chill experience. They very different from the first C-section. That was after like 19 hours of labor. Then I had an emergency C-section with a lot of drama and a bad spinal. This time it was very relaxed. The nurses were chill, it was quiet. They put the IV in, they did all of the tests. They tested me for COVID, of course, and um, then they took me into the operating room. They did the spinal correctly. Imagine that. The first time they did it correctly. And they put me on the bed. It was actually kind of boring. There were only maybe one, two, three, four, six people, six doctors in the room, or six medical staff in the room. With the first emergency C-section, there was literally 30 people in there. I don't even know who all those people were. There were so many people in there and it was so chaotic, but this time it was very chill. I don't even think there were six people, there may be four people in there. And it took longer. Oh, really? Yeah. It took longer. I guess because they weren't rushing to get him out. And at one point, I kind of fell asleep because I was just because it was boring. Like, I was like, okay, well, y'all let me know when you're done. Like, um, I couldn't feel it, and they pulled him out, and it was very uneventful. He was chill. He didn't have to go to the NICU at all. The I guess what do they call it? I don't know what the alive baby doctor is called. Not the OB, but the person who deals with the baby. Is that a fetal? Are they still a fetus? They're not a fetus anymore. Whatever. Are they a pediatrician? Whoever. The people, the NICU people who do the initial screening to check to make sure who's okay. We're literally in there for 5 minutes. Okay, I'm almost done. Those people checked him for like not even 5 minutes, like 2 minutes. And I'm like, yeah, he's chill, he's cool. Okay. And that was it. That was literally it. My mom has some really cool, creepy pictures of them literally pulling him out. Um, and they sewed me back up and sent me to the what did they do? Did I go to a recovery room? I don't even remember. To be honest, I don't remember what happened. I think they sewed me up, they put the baby on my chest, and they rolled me into my room, like my regular hotel, my hospital room that I stayed there for. I gave birth to him at like 8 something in the morning, and um, they had me in that room with the baby. He stayed with me the whole time. My mom ended up leaving around 11. My husband came, and he stayed with me Friday, Saturday, and then Sunday morning we were discharged. Like, what's 48 hours, um, which is really short for a C-section, but COVID time. So uh, we were there for a really short time. They did all their screenings. He was completely fine. They were checking my blood sugar the whole time. My blood sugar was completely fine. It was within range. They were like, if it's over a certain amount, we'll put you on metformin, which is like the medication I was taking before I was pregnant. Numbers never went back up. They were back to normal, like normal people numbers, like they were before, without insulin, without medicine. And that's kind of where we've been for the last month. Um, he is a loud sleeper, but a very chill baby. Well, I'm ashy baby. Oh my god. Um, yeah, it's been pretty chill. He's a pretty good sleeper. He's very chill for the most part. I mean, he has gas, which I think has been the most stressful thing. Um, but yeah, that's where we are. And in this month, it's been. I mean, there's been a lot of like family stuff that's kind of happened, but not because of him. He's just kind of. You okay? He just kind of fit in, got in where get in where he fit in. Are you pooping? What's going on? Uh, he got in where he fit in into our family pretty seamlessly. He'd just be chilling. Like he'd be on my lap or on the bed or, wherever. Um, and so that's been great. Um, Transitioning for me, like going back into work, it's now been a month. And while I took like 3 or 4 months off with my first kid, but this one things are a little different because I was not working for the 6 months up to his birth. And that takes a toll on one's savings. So it's time for me to go back to work. So I've been applying to jobs and hopefully things are working out. I've been interviewing, so hoping that something's going to come through pretty quickly. Things have been moving a lot faster now, to the point where I may end up having 2 jobs, which is interesting. But yeah, that's kind of where things are. While things haven't been completely resolved, they feel like they're about to be, and that's exciting for me. And it's kind of allowed me to finally be at the point where I can look back on all of the things that have happened in the last 6, 7 months and see them for what they are, and kind of pull the lessons that I think I was learning, not even supposed to learn, that I was learning, but I couldn't put word or feeling to them because it was happening. So I feel like I'm at the point where I can start to be reflective, hopefully, and find the joy that did happen in that time, but didn't always feel that way because anxiety. Um, so yeah, so uh, at the end of it, I guess you show the baby, right? I'm surprised. I thought he was gonna wake up in the time, but he didn't. But this is Iman. Can we show the people? Are you gonna be mad? Are you gonna be mad? Oh, okay. Sorry. This is Iman. Um, he cost me a lot of money, child. Oh, you got gas. Oh, was gas this whole time? Um, yeah, so it was all worth it, but it was expensive and it was stressful and it was very different from the first pregnancy. Being pregnant, giving birth in your 30s is way different from being pregnant and giving birth in your 20s, girls. Um, but we did it and we made it through. Recovery for my C section was a lot easier this time than last time. Transitioning, having a baby, kind of, I was afraid I wasn't going to remember how to take care of a baby because I literally didn't remember anything. I was like, what the hell are we going to do with the baby? We got a 5-year-old now. He can wipe his own ass. I don't know. How do we do this? Um, but everything comes back, you know? Um, And so yeah, so that's where we are. I'm looking at my time. I've been talking on here for 1 hour. It's time to let it go. But yeah, so it's a baby smile. Oh, he over me, child. He's over me. Well, you missed a smile, and it wasn't a real smile. It was a gas smile. But that's where we are. Maybe I'll come back at some point and talk about all the other things that I bookmarked to myself. Um, That's it. Bye.